Good. Nice. Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a long time since I got a chance to talk to you. Guess a couple of things here before I talk about real stuff or our season. First, shout out to Philly fans and Philly players and everybody else that's probably still celebrating the Eagles win. It's pretty cool to see. Like I'm obviously I'm not an Eagles fan, but you can get on board when teams like that are winning and everybody around you is celebrating and cheering and everything else. So I got a bunch of friends that are Eagles fans, so you can imagine how crazy they were last night in all over the world, wherever they were texting me. So, shout out to them. Good luck to them in the Super Bowl. It's actually funny. I went to Celtics game last year in the playoffs against Miami, Game 6, Eastern Conference Finals, I believe. And the Eagles had their whole team there in one of the suites. So I went in and was talking to those guys. And I don't follow football, so forgive me here. Sirianni, is it?
Sirianni.
Sirianni. So he was in there. I was talking to him because he was in Indianapolis, which I don't follow football. I follow Colts, but I didn't know he was an assistant there. We were talking about a bunch of different stuff and where he lived and all this other stuff. So you find that common ground to cheer for somebody. So it's pretty cool to see. The other thing is, as I'm flipping back and forth between football games and basketball coverage and everything else, and just watching the highlights of Iowa and Rutgers, just seeing Patrick McCaffrey come back and play was pretty cool to me. I sent the text to Fran that just knowing what they've gone through as a family and a team, but him as a kid, but just to see him out there having fun, had this huge smile on his face, and I know that probably meant the world to him and his teammates and his family, more importantly. So wanted to send a shout out to them as well. I know college basketball players go through a lot. It's pretty stressful, and there's a lot of benefits to it, but there's a lot of negatives to it as well. And we're in an era now. I wasn't a good player, and there was no social media when I played, so there was nobody watching or talking about Hanover. But these guys are under a microscope, and I'm sure him, after we played Indiana, just grabbing a moment with Trace Jackson Davis, just to try and encourage him, because I knew what he was going to hear, what he was going to see. Same thing with Hunter Dickinson yesterday. All those guys, we're competitors, and we all want to win. But being a person comes first, and I hope those guys get a chance to enjoy this time as college basketball players. As stressful as it may be, I hope they're enjoying that because this is something they should be enjoying, having fun with their teammates, playing a game, trying to get to the NCAA tournament, whatever it may be.
Micah, how did you find that balance then when it can be so intense throughout the season and kind of make sure your guys stay, having fun and being level-headed with things like that?
It's when your coach is crazy, it's hard, right? But you got to add some moments in there for them, right? It can't always be 100% tense, right? You got to have some moments where you just got to laugh sometimes, right? You can't take yourself too serious. It's one thing you guys come to find out about me. I don't take myself too serious. So if you do, right, it's probably in what you should be doing. So we try and do that with our team. We try and enjoy being around each other. we try to laugh at each other, and just keep it as light as possible, just so we do understand that, like, you know, college is like the greatest 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, sometimes 7 years of your life.
I'm not sure if you caught what Jawan said after the game, but he told us there was a moment after a couple of threes went in and the crowd was going crazy, and he said to you something along the lines of, "Oh, this is what it's all about." Kind of acknowledging the crowd, which is something you've been scratching and fighting for, and I just wonder what that meant to you to have another coach acknowledge that during a game.
Yeah, he kind of just glanced, just because, like, you know, shots start falling, and, like, you know, Seth's shot hits the rim and bounces way up in the air, and I'm just standing there watching. I'm like, it's going in, right? You just have those feelings. You just have those moments when you know. But also, it is like, those things push you. Those things really, really push you. And, like, I mean, you talk about different places and different, like, you know, I think about, like, you know, who is it, Iowa State or whatever, and they talk about, like, Hilton Magic, or, like, you know, playing in Kansas, and, like, the fog and what happens in there. And, like, it used to happen when we were at Butler all the time too. Like, you have those Hinkle moments. It's like, there's a lot. Like, everything starts going your way, right? The crowd starts getting into it. Your team's feeding off of that, and, like, some ball bounces like 30 feet off the rim. You're like, that's going in. Or some ball hits some dude's foot, and, like, it bounces the other way, and somehow it doesn't go out of bounds. It just stays there. Your team picks it up and scores, right? It's like, I don't know, a little bit of karma, a little bit of goodwill that's going your way. That, you know, we felt it. We felt it from the crowd yesterday, and it does. It spurs you on. It pushes you. It gives you that edge. And now, you know, we're in the home stretch of our season, and we have 4 more home games left. Right? 4 at home and 6 on the road, and you know, all these are going to be big games for us. The home games. And now, if we can get those little moments, if we can get that little bit of magic, like, that might be the difference between us, you know, getting an NCAA tournament or not.
Micah, how are you?
I'm doing great.
So, going back to what you talked about after the game yesterday, you know, what does it mean to you to see this team develop as a family?
Yeah, it's really, like, it's kind of happened organically, right? Because you have these different groups that have all been brought together at different times. So, you know, Seth and Miles, who were, and Caleb and Dalian, I guess with Andy also, who were kind of holdovers from before I got here, or since I got here. And then, you know, we add Pickett to that group. Now he's been with those guys for another year, and then you add in Andrew and Mikey and Cam, you know, 3 newer guys this year. Then you add in 5 freshmen, and, you know, it's a group that hasn't really been around each other a lot. But now you get to this point of the year, you can see those friendships that have developed. You can see what's happening with different groups, and they're together, right? They're doing stuff together, like who they ride with when it's like, if they're coming to my house, and, like, who shows up with who, right? Who jumped in the car with who, and who's waiting to take this person home. And, like, you see those things developing, but you also see the chemistry on the court, right? Sometimes that's taken longer than the chemistry off the court. But, you know, as we keep going, and as guys are getting closer and growing, the trust is becoming, you can see the trust starting to happen. And I think once you see that, once that starts to happen, now you can start to become a really good team. So I can see that trust now going from off the court to helping us on the court now.
Speaking of shots going in here, versus not here. You've got this pretty, I would call it a big disparity. Do you see it that way? What's your assessment of, are you guys just really good here, or do you feel like you're shooting poorly on the road, and how do you address that?
Yeah, you know, it's yeah, we've shot really good here. Like that's, you know, it's been, I mean, obviously we've like set or broke or tied or whatever 3-point records all here. Yeah, now it's about like having the same mentality, but also not, like everything that happens doesn't have to be the same, right? Like everywhere. You know, hey, Penn State basketball is not very good. Why do we have to continue to say that, right? Just because something happened 10 years ago has nothing to do with me, right? Whatever happened at Rutgers has nothing to do with what's going to happen at Purdue. I think when you start to get into that mentality of, oh man, here we go again, you're just holding yourself back, right? I don't want us to hold ourselves back. I want us to play free. I want us to play loose. I want us to have the mentality of the next shot's going in, right? Sometimes you get on the road and you get sped up a little, right? You get rushed. Maybe you're getting the same quality of shot. You know, it's just a little bit quicker. It's just a little bit out of rhythm or out of sync. Doesn't mean you're a bad shooter, right? You've made shots before, right? Now you just have to trust yourself. You have to trust the work that you put in. You have to stay confident in those moments. You know, we did that. We played with more poise, like when we were at Illinois, and we made shots. I think we need to play with more poise offensively. You know, maybe I need to use my timeouts better to keep teams out of keep the crowd out of the game and keep the focus on ourselves. But then we need to stay confident, and people are doing a good job of guarding us in a lot of different ways, and right, people are feeding off their crowds defensively, and you know, so they're playing a little more active, a little more aggressive, what that may be. So we just need to execute, play with a great purpose, and you know, when my time comes, shoot with confidence. If you miss it, do the same exact thing the next time down the court. Shoot it with confidence again, and you know, no two games are the exact same. So, like, you know, we can be who we want to be.
Like Zach Edey had, I think, 38 yesterday. He had 30 against you guys earlier this year. You know, what can you take away from that first matchup at the Palestra, and kind of, you know, figuring out, you know, how to guard him? What did you kind of learn from that you feel like you can apply this time?
Yeah, there were, like, you watch it, you go back, and it's like, all right, we can't do this, but this was okay, and we can try and do this. You know, they do a really good job of, like, you know, I talk about playing with the purpose. Like, they play with the purpose, right? They're going to get him the basketball, no matter, like, at the expense of everybody else on the team. I'm going to get him the ball, right? That is my number one priority. There's not very many college teams that play with a great purpose like that, right? Like, you watch some other teams, and it's like, all right, well, he got it a couple times. Time for me to get a shot. Or, like, I'm shooting it the next time. Like, I don't really care about him anymore. Like, they're going to get him the ball, and then they're going to play off of it. They're going to get open shots because of it, and because of the focus that is put onto him. So, trying to figure out the best way to stop him, you know, it's really hard. We had a lot of areas to clean up. I know that much. Like, we weren't good in the post. We weren't good in ball screen defense. We weren't good off the ball. So there's a lot of areas to really clean up. You know, I don't know where you start with Zach. Like, he's such a matchup nightmare that, like, you don't see it. You know, he's different. He's different than Hunter Dickinson. And Hunter Dickinson's massive. Zach's totally different than him. He's like, man, I guess I could go home and get on my kids' video games and like create some dude that's that big and then play against him and like simulate a game and see how they guard him. And then maybe try and come up with some ideas. But the Big Ten has handcuffed me. It's only given me a couple days to really figure something out. So we're just going to compete. We're just going to play as hard as we can. We're going to try and make it as tough as we can. And he's a player here in the country, man. He's having a fantastic season. You can't let him like take your spirit. That's the biggest thing. You got to fight every time down the court. Like it's easy when he's scoring. Like to just get your head down. It's like, oh man, another possession. But you got to fight. 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 You got to compete. You got to come back. You got to fight. You got to do it again. Because as soon as he takes your spirit, like that's when he gets 40, which he was really close to doing yesterday and against us.
Last question.
Caleb and Mikey obviously start yesterday. How much, do you think you can rely on those guys against Zach, and how much, I know you said him and Zach and Hunter are different, but how much can you take from that matchup and just dealing with size and how those guys handle it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I thought those two played with a great energy, which is how they ended up starting. Like they practiced that way. Now, like we got to continue that. They got to play the same way, right? Like I said, no two games are exactly the same. So just because I played well last game doesn't automatically assume the same things are going to happen. They got to prepare the same exact way. They got to know. They got to watch the film. They got to be locked in and walk through. And then I thought we were all on the same page offensively and defensively. Right? And I think that's what helped us. Like those two guys were a factor in it, but I think everybody else that was on the court was a big factor as well. Like if we're on one page offensively and defensively, I think that's when we're at our best. So, like I said, I don't know if there's one game plan against Zach that's like, this is the exact way to guard him. Like nobody knows because nobody's been able to guard him at all. So if we're doing the wrong thing, but at least 5 of us are doing it, then we're good to go, right? We're all on the same page and we're doing it. So we're going to do it at great speed and with enthusiasm and with some toughness. Instead of everybody having their own idea about how we should be doing this. And now we don't have 5 guys. We got each single guy doing his own thing. So if we can get all 5 guys going in the same direction, I think, hopefully good things can happen for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Micah.
Thank you.